Hi everyone, welcome to Yuva. For this Youth Samvad session of ours, we have with us Devesh Patel. Devesh is a clinical pharmacist and has done his Masters in Pharmacy from St. George's University Hospital and Kingston University, London, and is currently doing his clinical practice in primary care at the University of Bath, London. Along with that, he's also associated with multiple businesses. Welcome to Yuva, Devesh.
Hi, thanks for having me today.
Thank you for giving time. We've been trying to connect from a very, very long time, but because of the busy schedule of ours, finally are able to speak today. Thank you for that.
Thanks for having me. And yeah, again, like because of the time issues and stuff, we've been keep
Yeah.
trying to distribute, but finally we are here.
Yes.
It's good.
So shall we start with the interview?
Yes, please.
So Devesh, let's walk back to your school days. Where did you do your schooling from?
The schooling I did from there's something called Prakash High School. That's in Barija town, which is in Ahmedabad. So I did from my year one schooling to 12th science all throughout like 12 years in the same school, which was a good experience.
Wonderful. And you had science, right?
Yeah, so after 10th, I decided to go for 11, 12 science stream. Yeah.
And what made you make that decision of choosing science? What was the inclination?
To be honest, didn't have much idea about like, what's the difference between arts, commerce, and science. But again, parents and families and stuff like, okay, go for the medical lines, this and that. So obviously you have to have the science grade to get into the medical. So yeah, that was one of the reason started for the science. Yeah, like get into the science, 11, 12 science.
So after your class 12th, Devesh, did you take a gap year?
No, I didn't have any gap years. No.
No. So you straight away went in for undergrad.
Yeah, so straight away undergraduations and then masters and working. So I never had a gap year. But to be honest, I did want one for now. So I just want to take 1 year gap, full gap year, and then travel around the world.
Take a break.
So yeah.
Okay. So you did your undergrad in pharmacy, right?
Yeah.
So how
Correct,
did
yeah.
you choose upon this course? Because as I may not be able to speak for everyone, but at least for myself and my surroundings, I did not know that uh, this is this is something that could be taken up professionally, and people do
Yeah.
take that. So it's kind of a new thing, at least for me, when I spoke to you before. So in your how did you come to know about this course, and
Yep.
how did you decide upon it?
So basically, like I always wanted to jump into the medical field or healthcare industries. So when I was in 10th and then started with that 11, 12 science, so that time I never had any ideas like what would be my future, obviously. But then the only thing I had in my mind was like, okay, let's do something in the healthcare industries, which is served by healthcare professionals. So you got to be one of them to, have a perk of health industry. So there's a few reasons, few many factors. So one of them being healthcare industries served by healthcare professionals. That was number A. B, it was like grades. So you got to have the proper grades to get into it. And the C, family and friends. So you always have, not sure in all states of India, but mainly Gujarat and my side of area, the parents, especially in London or US, even if you are Asian parents, they will be like, okay, you got to be in some sort of medical field. So that's some sort of impact from the family to get into those sort of things. So yeah, that's how I choose pharmacy as my career. Yeah.
If I have to put your words, it would be that you had people around for you to
Yes,
shape that
some sort of
decision.
impact from people around me. Yeah, yeah. Plus, the health industry being one of my goals, like get into the health industry. Yeah.
So you never thought of the focus was always pharmacy, or there were other options too.
That time when I was in school, as I say, like I didn't have much idea like what exactly I really like wanted to do. But as go along, like as the time passed, like you get to know more things. For example, if it's today's world, if I had to do, I'll probably jump into the arts or even commerce. But that time, obviously, you always like, okay, we are doctors or pharmacists or dentists or those sort of things. So just started into that, and always had like few family friends who were doing pharmacy in abroad, like countries like UKs and US and stuff. Yeah.
So that's how you got the exposure about pharmacy as a course, and that's how you built in your interest.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. So now you did your undergrad from UK, right?
Yeah, I did
So
my undergraduate from UK.
so how was it that there are courses available in our country as well, in India as well? So what was that thing that made you choose UK for the course?
I think it's a good question. Okay, so India, that time when I moved to UK, which was in 2006, 2005 was my application. So I started preparing to, get into the UK universities. So that time there wasn't many colleges and universities in India. I mean, all the government one, and you need higher grade than what I had to get into those sort of government colleges and universities. So only probably few pharmacy schools in India. So obviously, I had to either get the good grades or just try and get into the university abroad. Plus, the second thing is in India, once you are a pharmacist, once you qualify as a pharmacist, there's a few, narrowed sort of options you have. Mostly is in India is like all industrial pharmacy. So basically you just end up going into the industry where you manufacture or do tastings and stuff about all the pharmaceutical thing or manufacture medicines. But in the same field, when you are into the manufacturing, you have to compete with like people from chemistry, people from biochemistry. So those people is already into same sort of position. So either you have to be competitive or you have to, lower your grading to like sort of value wise. Basically, let's say if somebody is getting paid for 10,000 rupees, why would they hire a pharmacist for 20,000 rupees? So those were like sort of options you had. So rather just go abroad and explore the whole pharmaceutical industries or healthcare industries. So that was the reason I chose to apply for the UK university. There are a lot of universities and colleges in India. You can easily get into it even if you have the low grade. You don't have to have 90% or 95% or 80%. But now, again, like still there's a dilemma, like whether you want to just study in India and end up doing like, industrial pharmacy, or you want to go abroad and do like clinical pharmacies or compete with like doctors or scientists and stuff. So still development stage in India. Obviously the healthcare industry is very, very big in India because if you know, I'm not sure if you're aware of it, 50% of generic medicines all over the world is manufactured in India itself. So India at this stage providing like more than 50% generic medicines to all over the world. So obviously the industry is very big, but the respect, like, we don't, as a pharmacist, we don't get that much respect in India. So yeah, compared to all other countries.
So let's move on. Will you be able to explain to us the paperwork required to apply for universities abroad?
Okay, so basically, there's something called UCAS, especially for the UK. I'm not sure about US and Canada or Australia, but for United Kingdom, UK, you have something called UCAS. It stands for University College Application Service. So if you just Google or go on to UCAS, you will connect to the all universities, all the courses, professional courses here, like pharmacy, medical, arts, or economy, anything or everything, right? So you just go there, try and choose, like narrow down your criteria. So basically which university you want to go. So you just choose that particular universities, or you can just, narrow it down by subject. So for example, you want to study international finance. So you just narrow it down to the international finance, and then you get to know like what sort of universities, how their courses are run, what are the time periods, how the tuition fees and stuff. So you need to just narrow it down, and then you will get all the options, and then you choose and apply, and then they will let you know like, okay, what are the criteria. So basically, what are the university requirements, what are the government requirements. So then you just prepare your documents. There's two things. One is for the university application. So basically, you need to get into the university, and then they will issue a letter that's called sponsorship letter. So once you get the conditional or unconditional letters from the university, so that means you already got the admission into that universities by fulfilling the conditions. And then using that letter, you just apply for the visa things for the UK embassy. And for the visa, you probably can just ask them basically like what are the requirements and stuff. So mainly they will ask like, okay, how are you going to fund your educations? How are you going to fund your stay in the UK? So then either your parents or yourself or family can just show like the documents. So that's second part of like finance things. But the first is educational. So you need to connect with the UCAS applications, and then university asks you like, okay, what are your A-level grade, which is like 12 science, 11, 12, or 11, 12 arts or commerce, and then GCSE level. So I think it's 10th. So you just need to let them know these are your grades and stuff. But again, if you are going for the medical courses like dentistries or pharmacies or nursing or even medicines, they will ask you for IELTS exam. Then you have to score like 7 bands in each: listening, speaking, writing. So that's a minimum requirement for the universities to get into the medical field. I'm sure there must be some sort of the same requirement for other courses like designing. I have seen like a lot of people in here for the fashion designing course. So there must be some sort of requirement for that. But if you clear the IELTS exam, then it becomes really easy to get into university courses.
Is there any facility of scholarships also?
I guess there are, again, you just need to contact the particular universities where you're applying. So a lot of universities have scholarship things. Some universities only have scholarship for particular countries where they get some sort of fund from the government. So they run the program depending on the government as well, and depending on the course. So you just need to find out which university you want to apply and then contact them. And then I'm sure you will be able to find the sponsorship for them as well. Yeah.
So the UCAS thing that you told, that is specific to the names of the university and the courses that they provide and the procedure. It
Yeah.
does not mention scholarships and stuff. That's an internal thing of the university.
Yeah, so I think I'm not sure. Most probably they won't have any information on scholarship. So that way, UCAS is a platform. So you are a student, I'm the university. In between, there's a UCAS. So UCAS is a platform you get to university admission process. So it's just one standard thing for the UK universities and colleges. So you just apply through UCAS. And for example, you want to explore how many universities providing that particular course. So you just go to the UCAS, make your account, login, and then you can just browse through like how many universities are there for that particular course. So then, for example, if you want to do music or drama, so then they will give you the list of universities, okay, King's College or University of Greenwich or Kingston. So then you decide, okay, these are based in London, but you wanna go out of London and do something. So then you explore in the Manchesters or Birmingham and Glasgow, those sort of thing, Edinburgh. So you will have the options. So you don't need to contact the university for that or Google. You just go on UCAS and get everything done.
That's very nice. Will you be able to tell us that how expensive are the courses for pharmacy there?
How expensive?
Yeah.
Okay. The expense each year, depending on the universities, when I was doing my pharmacy, it was around 12,500 a year, which is similarly around 10 or 12 lakh Indian rupees a year. Now, minimum tuition fees for each university is 15,000. So 15,000 to 16,000 pound in Indian rupees would be what? 14, 15 lakhs a year. And Okay, so pharmacy in here is like a standard course, which is MPharm, Master of Pharmacy. So that's like 4 + 1 year. So 4 years university study and 1 year practical. But now I think the new regulations, they're going to have the 1 year sandwich in between of your 4 year study. So 1 year you have to practice either in hospitals or community pharmacies or industry while you are studying. So this is basically a 5 years course in UK to get registered in the government like General Pharmaceutical Council registered. So you pay around 15, 16,000 pound a year and multiply by 5. That will cost you around 80,000 pound. So that's around 75 lakhs just for tuition fees. Yeah. But if you are a local student, UK local, like UK citizen, then you don't pay that much. You pay less, plus the government will fund for your tuition fees. Once you start earning, then they will take it back from you, and it's 0% interest. But if you are from India and traveling here, then obviously you pay quite a huge amount of money. Yeah.
This was, you told about the Masters of Pharmacy, right? This 4
Yeah.
+ 1 thing is the Masters. What about graduation? For how long is it there?
Okay, so there's one thing which is different than India is this MPharm course. If you get good grades in 12th science in India, and if you clear your IELTS with 7 bands in each modules, then you can easily get into the pharmacy directly. Like you don't need to go for a bachelor's or graduate course, right? So you can directly go for post graduation, which is a 5 years course. So you start from year 1 and then complete all 5, and then you become a registered pharmacist here. But after even completing all your 5 years, 4 + 1, you need to take something called a pre-registration exam. So you need to finish that exam and score at 70%. So if you pass that exam by 70%, then only you will be able to register on the General Pharmaceutical Council registered here, and then you can start practicing as a pharmacist. So if you don't want to do this particular course, there's a lot of graduate level course. So basically BSc in pharmaceutical science, you can do that. You can do BSc in biochemistries or a lot of others like, science related courses. So that's 3 years, BSc honors in pharmaceutical science, which is a 3 years course. Yeah.
You've done that, no?
I have done it. Yeah. So that was 3 years. Plus again, I started this one. So 4 + 1, 5, and those one the 3 years. So 8 years study non-stop here. Yeah. And paying international fees every year.
Oh, that's a lot. So tell me something, when a student is in a graduate course, so let's first focus on the undergrad course, the bachelor's one. So in the bachelor's course, if you do that, what kind of an exposure a student gets during the, the course of action?
So for example, let's say, for instance, pharmaceutical science. So if you are doing the bachelor's in pharmaceutical science, that whole course is it's only like, made for industrial pharmacy or lab testings or quality control, those sort of things, or regulations. So then when you are studying, you have options to go to the industries like GSK, Pfizer's. So those sort of international companies will give you like, the placement for a week or 2. And then you get to know like how the real world works in the pharmaceutical industry. So while you are studying, you will have the exposure to that practical world. And also the mainly when you are at universities, you get to know like a lot of students from abroad. So it's not just like, okay, you are in India. Most of the like 50 or 80% students will be Gujarati if you're in Gujarat. It's not like that. Here is like you get to know students from all around the world. Basically, you get to have exposure to like, the whole cultures, like the world culture. Apart from educations and training, the culture-wise, you have really good options. Like, you can have proper exposures to a lot of different cultures.
And
so that's the graduation.
And after the graduation, what all job opportunities are there? Like, it's not necessary that everybody would get into masters, right? So there are people who do only bachelors. So what are the prospects in terms of work after undergrad?
Okay, undergraduate, when you talk about this pharmacy related or biochemistries or biomedical, So you have the main option is to go in industries, and when we talk about the industry, there's so many like the few many things you can do it. So in industries, let's say if you are into like quality controls or quality assurance, so the people like GSK, Pfizer's, those people will hire you straight away as a graduate program. So every multinational companies, they run the program called graduation program, and you just apply, and then you will start with the standard basic pays and training and stuff. So that's one being one. Secondly, you can apply for the research and stuff. So sometimes, a lot of industries, they are running the research R&D. R&D in the healthcare industry is the biggest thing, like billions of pounds and dollars are spent every year just to discover something new. For example, this COVID vaccines, a lot of countries are investing, a lot of companies are investing. So basically R&D is run to like, is a part of each and every countries and the companies. So either you apply for the R&D research, and then during your research things, you will get to study research about particular topic, and you don't have to pay, like it's sponsored by the company. So you get paid as a job as well as you are studying or researching, and then you become like a doctor. You discover something, and you will have the PhD degree. So that's being a second options. Third being regulatory. So let's say if you are really good at regulations, international regulations, even the pharmaceutical industries, health industries, they have a lot of regulations. Each countries have different criteria, especially MHRA, UK. That's the toughest body in the world who regulates the medicines and licensing of the medicines and stuff. So you get into regulatory body and you work for the government and become like part of regulatory. Yeah. So you got quite a few options.
So when you were mentioning about the first option of it, which was to work with the industries, you said
Yeah.
that you get a basic salary. So basic would mean how much basic?
I'm not sure nowadays, but you start from I think 18,000 or 20,000 something, pound, sterling pound. Yeah. So that's your yearly salary. You get 20,000 pound. Yeah.
So you did not work. You straight on went for your masters.
I had a 1 year, not as a gap, but obviously as a training. So I was working for pharmacy. Yeah.
You did.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So now, how did you decide upon going for masters?
Then, okay, so basically when I qualified as a pharmaceutical scientist, BSc Pharmaceutical Science, um, I was like, okay, we cannot register as a pharmacist, but we can register as a chemist to work for the industry. So then I was like, okay, there's something missing. So we have to start doing, let's jump into the pharmacy course. And same time, I had an idea, okay, because St. George's University Hospital in Kingston, so they also, like St. George's University in particular, they also offer medicine degrees as well. And if you are the bachelor's, you get a advantage of starting directly from second year. So 1 year you'll be less from your course. So basically, instead of doing 5 years, you can just do 4 years and finish it off. And then I thought, no, I think pharmacy is better because you get quite a good options, uh, not just like a profession wise, business wise and stuff. So rather than doing medicine, let's finish it off with the pharmacy and get registered as a UK pharmacist. Then me and one of my best friend, basically I need to tell you about him. So we started from standard one in India, school from the same class. Throughout 12 years, we traveled to UK for study. We did the same course, BSc Pharmaceutical Science, bachelor's. Then we decided to go for the pharmacy masters, and we done that. So from year one, schooling time, like no school times, from schooling to like 12 science to bachelor's to master's, he was being like he is being my best mate like throughout my educational careers. Yeah, yeah. So I don't think you will have that many like examples like this. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
he
This is
he's,
something really interesting to listen to.
yeah.
Okay, so tell me something, Devesh. From being a bachelor's, graduate to now to then being a master's graduate, what kind of
Yeah.
finesse do you see in yourself that, how, what difference has masters brought in? What kind of specializations or focus has master's degree brought into your course or to your profession?
Okay. So masters is kind of integrated course with everything. So basically, knowledge about medicines. So for example, you start from cell biology to advanced therapeutic things in medicine. So you get to study and have knowledge on that. Then you have the organic chemistry to developing the drugs, the particular drugs or research. So you have to study all those sort of modules in the masters. So obviously you have 4 + 1, 5 years course, and it's a full time. You don't have any off like Monday to Friday. You've got to go to uni, lectures, labs, seminars. So a lot of things throughout these 4 years you need to focus on. And they cover like every single thing apart from medicines. They do regulatory and everything. So bachelor's is more about industrial sides and stuff, whereas a master's in UK is more about clinical. You need to serve the communities, hospitals, those sort of things. So you are part of the NHS. Basically, NHS is like all the doctors, dentists. So and then they put a pharmacist in between. So you're just connecting everyone in the whole course of services, health services. So throughout these 4 years, you get to study a lot of these sort of modules, and obviously you boost your knowledge on medicines and stuff. So here in UK, if the patient has a problem or if the patient has a query or questions, the first port of call is pharmacy. They will go to the pharmacy and they're like, can I speak to the pharmacist? So rather than going to the doctors, they will come to you and it's like, okay, pharmacist is busy, just have a seat for 10 minutes. And they will still wait for pharmacists to speak to them. They will take all the advice and everything. And if it's not controlled, then obviously we'll ask them to go to the hospitals or A&E or GPs, like a doctors. Um, so that way, after doing this masters, you have a lot of options, and you become a registered pharmacist, so you can practice as a pharmacist in the UK. Yeah.
So your horizons have broadened up. It's not only limited to industries, it has now moved to the clinical practice also.
Yeah, clinical practice. And when we talk about the clinical practice, there's a few many things compared to India. Number A being a community pharmacist, where all the patients comes to you and question you and stuff. So basically they will question the staff like over the counter, but if they really want to speak to the pharmacist, then obviously we have to go and advise them. Number B being even in the community pharmacists, before I go jump on the B, we do like a lot of vaccinations, a lot of clinics, travel clinics. So basically just taking the burden from the doctors. We do those sort of services. For example, if the COVID vaccine is going to roll out, like in UK market, then we were the one who's going to inject all the patients or jab them, just like a flu vaccines. So that way, not just as in being a clinical pharmacist, we working as a pharmacist. We also that way we are also helping the NHS and whole healthcare industries in UK. Number B being you can work in the hospitals. The same principle applies to the hospitals. So a hospital have to have all the hospital have to have the pharmacists working for them. So you control the whole pharmacy related things in the hospitals. Number C being a clinical pharmacist. So basically you are advising the GPs and uh, nursing, nurse, all the whole nursing industries. So then the GP sometimes they are really good. Like doctors are really good at diagnosing, what's the problem, what's the health related issues. But then once they find it out, then they need to know like what sort of treatment to do. So in that we fit in, like the pharmacist fits in. So they will advise the doctors like, okay, these sort of the treatments available, these are the medicines available, these are the dose, these are the contraindications, side effects. So that way we can just advise all the doctors and stuff. Then you jump into the regulatory again, like a bachelor's, you can still do it. There's also something called QP, qualified person. So if you have some sort of if you are a pharmacist in UK and if you have 1 or 2 years experience, you can do some modules on something called QP, which is a qualified person. So what they do is any batch for the medicines. For example, there's a batch, the whole, let's say 10,000 packs of medicine, paracetamol is coming from India to UK, and we need to release that particular batch. you cannot just put it in the market without the sign of QP. So basically, if you are a QP, you will do proper research on that particular batch of that 10,000 packs of paracetamol, and then you will sign off. You will sign, okay, this is okay to go in the market. So by only your sign, they can put it into the market, and then doctors or pharmacists or the patient, they can start using or start prescribing. So that's one of option you can have. Also, after being a pharmacist, there's something called, I was doing, I explained you like clinical practice in Bath. Because of the pandemic, I stopped doing that. I haven't been into any sort of modules online or even the face-to-face, but I might start something called independent prescribing once everything is normal. So once you finish your independent prescribing module, you become like a doctor, not a doctor, but like a doctor. You can start prescribing everything. So if the patient has to go and get some sort of prescription only medications, so if they can't make it to the doctor, they can go to the pharmacist who are independent prescribers. So I can just start prescribing medicines. And same time I can dispense, advise, everything. So you become like a doctor as well. So patient can get all this sort of informations from prescribing to dispensing to advice from just one person being a pharmacist, independent prescriber. So they don't need to go and see the doctor. So you have option of doing this sort of things as well. Yeah. And also NHS, National Health Services, which is one of the biggest health service provider trust in, I would say, like all over the world, like in the world. I don't think there's such thing like NHS anywhere else in the world apart from UK. So NHS is run by, is basically a trust, but run by obviously government of UK, health department. And they have the biggest, like, largest fund available like every year to treat the patients, like do the research, provide the health services. Okay. And they do require a lot of pharmacists working for NHS. All the doctors, nurses, physios, dentists, for one time, like, once in their lifetime, they do think like, okay, we do want to work for the NHS UK because there's something unique. So everybody thinks like, okay, let's, compared to US and Canada, they might not get that much, as in like finance wise, like the salary job, how they get paid. But working for NHS is completely different. If you forget about the finance, then yeah, you will love it. Yeah. So you probably have that sort of options as well, being a pharmacist, registered pharmacist.
So before I move on to my next question, there is something that I want to ask. So if somebody does a course from here in India, for example, you've done your graduation from India, can you apply for masters there, or if you've done your masters from here, can you apply for those courses that you've mentioned about the prescribing module, the module for prescribing medicines and all that different variety of modules that are available? Can you do that?
Okay. So let's say if one of the students has done his study in pharmacy, like bachelor's of pharmacy or master of pharmacy in India, so they have to do something called OSPAP, overseas pharmacy related course. A few of the universities in UK, they do have this sort of course. So they offer OSPAP course. So what international students, if you are just talking about India, so Indian students, they need to apply to one of this university through UCAS or directly contact the universities who are offering this OSPAP course. So once you get the confirmation from them, there's a few documents they need from your universities back home, like whatever the colleges you have studied from, they need to give those sort of documents. They have to supply those documents directly from the universities or colleges from India. So they can contact and verify all the documents. Then you can start this course called OSPAP. Again, the English exam requirement is IELTS, which is a 7 band in each modules. So once you have all this paper ready, they will ask you for the interview maybe. And if they say yes, then you can start your course. So you just do it for 1 year, OSPAP, because you already have the degree in India. And after doing this OSPAP course for 1 year, then you need to do 1 year training. So that's basically 2 years now. And then you take the pre-registration exam, like we all have to do it. Once you pass that exam, pre-registration exam, then you apply for the registration, and then you become a registered pharmacist. Now, coming to the independent prescribing, you have to have the MPharm or pharmacy degree in UK. So then first part is you have to become a registered pharmacist here, have a couple of years experience, and then you can go for the independent prescribing and become like a doctor, like a prescriber. Yeah. So basically you don't have to study all 5 years. If you are a pharmacist from India, you just do study for 2 years and then clear the exam and become pharmacist. Yeah.
Is there any special admission procedure for masters?
I would say no, but again, you just go through UCAS. I think UCAS is the best options for international students to explore. You don't need to just go to the different agents in India. They do, okay, we provide facilities for students to go to abroad and study, and rather than just giving them money, like you just go to the UCAS and do it yourself. You explore your whole options.
Masters, what all specializations are available?
For the masters?
Yes.
Especially in the pharmacy, this is different course. I told you, from 12 science, you can, if you get the good grades, like A-level grades, you directly start with MPharm. But if you keep MPharm aside, then in the masters, again, will be the same, pharmaceutical science, you have the masters, you have biomedical science, you have a chemistry, organic chemistry masters. So a lot of other masters in this sort of things. Yeah, BSc. You also have the something called analytical techniques. So basically, you just taste everything, analyzed data and stuff. Yeah. So you have masters in a lot of other streams. I guess in India, the MPharm is completely different. The MPharm is just a 1-year course in India, where you have to be a B.Pharm degree holder, and then you apply for the MPharm. Whereas here is a different. You just have all 5 years study and finish off in 5 years. Yeah.
In a brief, if you could tell us, what does the course entail? The course that you did, Masters of Pharmacy. What does it entail?
As in, you mean how
you
do
it? A bit of a detail about it, like a little bit of detail about the subjects and
different modules and stuff. Okay.
Yes.
So it starts from basic level 1, year 1 semester. So basically it's a years, but then they divide into 2 different semesters. Semester as in not as in semester, but they have first 6 months you study something different, and then another 6 months after Christmas, the second semester starts and you study something different. So it starts with the basic biology, pharmaceutical science, basic chemistry for the first year. Then you go on to cell biology for the second semesters. Then you have the chemistry wise as well. The organic chemistry become medicinal chemistry. So you study in the depth of chemistry. The same for the biology, human physiology and stuff that goes into really deep. You study advanced sort of therapeutics and stuff. At the same time, the third year, you study all about the whole human bodies and therapeutics and stuff. And then you have, we have something called BNF, British National Formulary. So that contains the whole record of medicines, the dosage forms, how you can prescribe, where you should be considering, where you shouldn't be considering. So that BNF is like a Bible for us, for the doctors or dentists. So they need to follow that BNF, which is a standard book guidelines. They are collaborated with the NICE guidelines. So we have to go through those sort of books and finish all the modules and exams on BNF as well. So BNF has a chapter wise, the first chapter being gastrointestinal of stomach, then second on COPD, asthma and stuff, third being the cardiovascular. So BNF has different chapters on whole human body functions. We have to study all the modules of the BNF as well, including antibiotics and stuff. So all these 4 years, throughout these 4 years, you start from the basic, and when you are on the the final year, you'll be studying end up studying advanced sort of things. Yeah. And then again, you have research. So you choose the topic of research and dissertations, and then finish it off, yeah, with the dissertation in the final year.
Wonderful.
And the main thing, when you are questioning about entering this sort of course, the main thing, you have to go to universities like every day, Monday to Friday. So it's not like a few days off and stuff. They do take like everyday sort of presence. So you have to go. You may bunk the lectures, but then labs, you have to go to labs. Otherwise, you won't learn anything. Yeah.
That's quite an extensive course. It's sounding so interesting and
Kind
extensive
of.
at the same time. Really nice. So now, are the career options after masters remain the same as they were for the bachelor's course, or there are more distinct available options available?
The career-wise, you can start with the bachelor's, and then once you have the experience, you can build up, right? You can just go for the different careers options and stuff. But once you're the masters, masters gives you registration with the pharmaceutical council here, and then you can become a practicing pharmacist for communities or clinical or hospitals. So that something is there, which is a registration with the governing body here in UK. So that's a little bit difference between the bachelor's and masters. Yeah. So that's a gap. That gap can only be fulfilled, like, once you finish your masters. MPharm, yeah.
Wonderful. That was quite a lot of information about masters and the course and the options available. In general, now I want to ask you that apart from UK, what are other countries are there that provide the same course and the that opportunity? We through you we got to know a lot about this, the kind of details and the kind of exposure that you get in UK.
Yep.
But other than UK, are there other countries also which provide the same kind of exposure?
There are a few many a lot of European countries, United States of America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, US being on top, and Canada. They got really good opportunities for the pharmacist. Um, US, they call it PharmD, Doctor of Pharmacy. So they have the same sort of course, but uh, the course, it's not an MPharm. They call it as a Doctor of Pharmacy, PharmD. So they got a really good options, career opportunities and stuff. But one thing in US is like US has a lot of different states. So for example, you are a pharmacist in California, so you have a different registration requirement than if you want to move to Florida. So state-wise registration and stuff. But apart from that, a lot of career opportunities there as well. Yeah. In Europe as well. But again, if you are a UK pharmacist, you can easily go and practice without any registration in any of the European countries, whether it's Western Europe or Eastern Europe. If you talk about the Western Europe, you can go to Germany, France, Spain, and start practicing straight away. So yeah, and the same, like, likewise, if you are a pharmacist from Germany or Spain, you can come and practice in UK as well. So you don't need to study further, but you can just come and practice here. Also, there are a lot of opportunities in Australia as well. Yeah, I think they have like in Australia they pay like handsomely for the pharmacists. Yeah.
What all colleges are there in India for the same?
India, I'm not much aware about the colleges and universities for pharmacy, but I would say like now is a lot of universities and pharmacies colleges. Uh, I think before it was like only government colleges. Now it's a lot of private institutions. They have their own universities and colleges. Um, One being on the top is LM Pharmacy, which is one of the oldest pharmacy college in India, which is in Ahmedabad. There are a few other famous one, Manipal universities. They have a lot of pharmacy colleges in South India. One in Mohali, which is a pharmaceutical research. I think National Institute of Pharmaceutical Research. Uh, they are really good as well. And there are a lot of private institutions, one being in Delhi or Noida called Sharda Universities. So they have pharmacy course as well. Um, I think pharmacy before it was like you have to travel to one state to another. Now each state has at least minimum of 10 pharmacy schools and colleges in India now.
So it was nice, Divesh. Thank you so much. This is a lot of information.
My
While we
pleasure.
conclude, yeah, before we conclude, is there anything in general that you would like to share to the aspirants who are willing to, come abroad or take up the course? Is there any piece of advice that you would like to give?
Studying abroad is one of its kind of experience one should always explore. But again, now India is much advanced than it was before. So you have options to study in India as well. Um, for the youth, especially the time is very important. Like when you think of something like, you want to do something, and by the time you start doing something, you'll be like 1 year already gone. But that doesn't mean you need to jump into something and start doing. Uh, you don't need to rush or take a train and fly it and start flying. Take your time, decide what you want to do, because there's always, there will be always change in your career. So basically, once you start doing your career, starting your career, start getting something, and then once you are into it, you will definitely steam through.
Mm-hmm.
So start with something, you'll definitely finish it off. And career, like you don't really think about decide, okay, I really want to do that or do this. If you start doing something here in UK, when I was studying, I had a few classmates. They were over 50, 55 years of age doing pharmacy. So that's something, there's always, if you want to change your careers, there's always options. But at least start with something, focus on doing what you're doing, finish it off, and then always have options to do something. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Divesh. It was, you know,
Thank you
your
for
kind
having me.
words.
It
Yeah,
was nice talking to you.
same here, same here. I had a wonderful time talking to you. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank
Take
you.
care. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Bye. Thanks, bye.